So thank you, KingMakers IAS.
I'm happy.
Okay.
I wish you
Thank
very
you.
best.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, KingMakers IAS. I would really like to thank Mr. D.P. Agarwal sir for helping me and guiding me in the interview stage. So thank you, KingMakers IAS, because these interactions were very helpful in finding the direction.
Hi everybody, my name is Sindhu, and I have been preparing for civil services for quite a few years, and I've given 3 interviews, and I've written 5 mains. Actually, from 4 mains, I've given 3 interviews. Fifth main I've written now, and I am waiting for the results. So this is the thing, and my optional subject is geography. So geography and environment are areas which have a significant amount of overlap. So I thought I will be able to handle environment well, and that's why I'm here to give you all an introduction to environment and ecology today. And with respect to my journey in civil services, so yes, I've been attempting the exam and I've not still been able to crack it. But this is an exam where if you put in your sincere efforts, you will get rewarded sooner or later. A reward will come, we just don't know about the time. So that is something which I want to mention here. And now going into the subject part. So environment and ecology is a significant subject in UPSC civil services. It is a subject which it has a lot of weightage. It is a simple subject and it is a subject which has a lot of weightage. So if you invest your time properly in this subject, you will be able to do well in the exam. The reason why I'm mentioning this is because this civil services exam, one more thing that you have to be aware of is that it has the same preliminary examination with that of the forest services. So the forest services and the environment, the civil services both have same preliminary exam. So it is important. So UPSC, what they do is that they put in a significant amount of environment questions into the civil services exam. So environment is a key focus area which you have to work upon, and that will reward you a lot. That's something which I want to tell you here. Coming to the other aspect of why environment has been put into the civil services syllabus in the first place. We all know that we live in the on Earth, and we are an integral part of Earth. And as we can see around us, there are so many changes that are happening. There is global warming, there is climate change, there are so many environment related disasters, there are issues like pollution and everything. So even as an administrator, while one enters services, one will have to work upon these issues, will have to solve these issues. And it is important to keep the environment safe in order to facilitate safe living. So that is the reason why environment and ecology subject has been put into the civil services syllabus. And the forest services, as you all know, it is exclusively environment. It is a domain where the officers have to manage forests. They have to manage plants, trees, animals, and everything. So there they are dealing largely with environment and less with humans. So environment is a very significant part in forest services. So environment and ecology is a subject which you have to do well if you want to enter the civil services or the forest services. So that is about environment. And coming to the prelims part, so environment subject, it is reflected in prelims, mains, and it can reflect in the interview stage as well. In the interview stage, they can ask you questions related to environment. So there we do not have any specific syllabus. It depends on the what the board asks you. Suppose if you are from Delhi, means they might ask you, please chalk out a strategy for tackling Delhi air pollution. So in the interview, to the interview board, you will have to answer, you have to give them a strategy and all that. So in that way, environment can reflect in the interview level. Coming to the prelims and mains, UPSC itself has given a syllabus as to how to go about with this preparation. So with regard to the prelim syllabus, what they have given is that they have just given one line exclusively related to environment. They've just given one line. The line is, they've said general issues on environmental ecology, biodiversity, and climate change. So this is the line that is given. It's just a small line, but it has a very broad interpretation. So that's how the UPSC exam is. So based on the line given, you have to interpret and decode. From this line of the syllabus, you have to do a lot of decoding. And based on that decoding, you will have to do you have to orient your environment preparation. So the line with respect to environment is environmental ecology, biodiversity, and climate change. And why I've put Indian and world geography, physical, and I've underlined it is because geography is a subject which has a lot of overlap with uh, environment subject has a lot of overlap with geography. So when you do geography, when you do forest, when you do mangroves, when you do hills, mountains, and so many things, climate change like aspects, there's a lot of overlap which happens with the environment portion. So it becomes difficult to pinpoint whether this question is from geography or environment. So that's the reason why I've included the physical geography part also along with the prelims environment syllabus. So this is about the one-line syllabus for prelims. Coming to the main syllabus, in GS3, in GS3 paper, you have the environment related aspects which come. And in GS3 paper, the syllabus line that is given is conservation, environmental pollution and degradation, and environmental impact assessment. So this is what is given. And like in the case of prelim syllabus, in the case of mains as well, the syllabus is, it can be interpreted very, very broadly. So based on this line, a numerous number of questions can be asked, and we'll come to that later. And so this is about GS3. And in GS1, so GS3 is the area where you have environment exclusively as a topic. And in GS1, like again how we saw in prelims, here you have environment again overlapping with geography. So in GS1, the geography syllabus says geographical features, their location, changes in critical geographical features, including water bodies and ice caps, and in flora and fauna, the effect of such changes. So in geography, you may have questions on coral reefs, you may have questions on mangroves, you may have questions on melting glaciers, you can have questions on coastal erosion, and so many things. Cryosphere melt, there was one time it was asked in mains. Cryosphere is the icy ice cap layers which cover the polar regions and the high altitude hill regions. So that is an area which is common for geography and environment. So UPSC had asked, what is the impact of this cryosphere melt on the globe and things like that. So what I'm trying to tell you is that in GS1 and GS3, your environment preparation can give you a lot of benefit. So when you're preparing for environment geography, you can also look at the overlap areas and make your streamline your preparation and make it more effective. So that is the thing. So apart from GS1 and GS3, environment has significance in other papers, other areas as well. One such area is essay. So essay, as you know, in UPSC, it is for 250 marks. So you have two essays, 125 each. And there are chances are very high that UPSC will throw a question related to environment and an essay topic related to environment directly, that can be a direct essay to you. So when you work on environment, when you read issues related to environment, when you collect news articles and information related to environment, it will be really helpful for you when you write your essay. So essay is for 125 marks. So if you are well prepared to tackle an environment related essay, it could be related to pollution, it could be related to climate change, it can be related to sustainable development, it can be anything. So when you do environment preparation, that will be of great help to you. And so that is with regard to the essay. And other area where environment overlap is seen in GS3. In the GS3 paper itself, environment, though it is given exclusively as a one-line syllabus, it has overlap with other areas like your science and technology. It comes with, in science and technology, you have topics like e-vehicles, green hydrogen mission, so many things like that. So e-vehicle, green hydrogen mission, though these are all related to science, it is then we have aspects like clean energy, renewable energy, and all that. So we cannot exclusively categorize this as science. Okay, it has an environmental angle. So green hydrogen mission has an environmental angle. The government trying to facilitate e-vehicles tries to the government trying the government trying to facilitate e-vehicles also has an environmental angle. So when you do this interlinking in your paper, that is while you're writing a science and technology answer, if you're bringing in points related to environment also, that will add more content to your answer. It will enrich your science and technology answer. It can help you manage your science and technology answers. Okay, and so that is one thing, and that is with respect to science and technology in GS3. And in GS3 you have other areas like agriculture. In agriculture you have concepts like organic farming, zero budget natural farming, and things like that. So there also again environment plays an important role. So when we talk about organic farming, when we talk about zero budget natural farming and all that is becoming more popular today because of problems like soil salinity, dipping water table, agriculture related methane emissions, and there is also a possible threat to food security if the agriculture related environmental issues are not managed and all that. So when you know the environmental problems, you can also apply the environmental problem related solutions to your agriculture. And in that way, again, you can say that agriculture aspect of your GS3 is linked to environment. So you get to enrich your agriculture related answers as well. So what I'm trying to tell you is that though there is just a one-line syllabus given for environment, it has linkages to science and technology, it has linkages to agriculture. And one more in GS3 is your economy. So in economy, you can say your environment is linked to aspects like circular economy and budget. Every time they announced measures related to environment. So this year also in budget there was a scheme called the Mishti for mangroves. Pranam scheme was announced for sustainable method of fertilizer usage. So all these also have an environmental angle. Okay, so though it's related to economy and budget. So environment, you can actually link it to every aspect in paper 3. You can link it to science, you can relate it to agriculture, you can relate it to economy and everything. And in GS1, again, it is linked to geography. Okay, so that's the thing. And coming to GS4, so when you know your environmental issues and problems and all that, you can also use it to write your GS4 ethics paper. So we have in ethics the syllabus called applied ethics. So when you come to applied ethics, there are concepts like sustainable development, environment versus development, things like this, where environment related issues can pop up in your ethics questions, ethics case studies and all that. So if you're well versed with the environmental issues and all that, you'll be able to handle those questions in a better way. So that's the thing. Yeah. So I've just mentioned the previous year question trend. So this is with respect to the number of questions they've asked in prelims. So I told you prelims, since it's a common exam for forest service and Indian civil service. So it is very important that you give adequate emphasis to this environment subject. So in 2015 there were 13 questions, 16 there were 12 questions, 17 there were 15 questions, and so on. And you can see in 2020 there were 25 questions from environment, 21 there were 16 questions, and 22 there were 19 questions. So there is a significant number of questions. So we can say definitely around 15 questions can be expected from environment, and it is important that you give adequate emphasis to this subject in order to crack the prelims comfortably. Okay, not just comfortably, to crack the prelims, it is important that you study environment. And coming to the mains previous year question trends, with respect to environment syllabus as such, from the one line given in the UPSC syllabus, around 25 to 35 marks they've been asking. That is what this graph denotes. But just like I told you, it is linked with other topics in the GS3 paper. It is linked with geography in GS1 paper, and you can also apply it in essay and everything. So though it is just 25 to 35 marks of direct questions from environment, you can link it to numerous other areas. So if you look at it in that way, then you will have a significant amount of marks coming in from environment in the mains as well. And in interview, I told you they can ask you questions related to how do you manage pollution, how do you manage water bodies, how do you manage wetlands, anything they can say. They will say you are a district collector, chalk out a plan for this, that, and they can throw at you some environment related problems. So in that way, it can come in your personality test as well. So that is with respect to how environment comes about in these areas. And I was telling you there was something called decoding the syllabus. So like we saw just now in the syllabus, there were just a few lines or few words given, and from that UPSC has been asking so many questions. So it means that there is a need to decode the syllabus in the first place, because your prelims syllabus just says that environment and ecology, biodiversity, and climate change. But from those three words, they're asking 15 questions, 20 questions every year. And in mains also, just a simple line is given, but there are numerous areas from where UPSC is asking environment related questions. So the question now is that how does an aspirant decode the syllabus? See, decoding of syllabus is one method of decoding the syllabus. When you're doing it on your own, is to look at the previous year question paper. So when you look at the previous year question papers, you get to understand how UPSC is asking questions, from where and all they're throwing questions. So if you do an analysis of, say, prelims paper from 2015 to 2020, you get to understand how UPSC is asking prelims related questions in, environment related questions in prelims. Similarly, when you look at the mains questions of the same year, say from 2015 to 20, you get to understand from where and all they're asking environment related. So, while looking at those areas, so as an aspirant, you get an understanding that I have to study these areas. Say for prelims, you may get an understanding that you have to do national parks, you have to do sanctuaries, you have to do international conventions related to the environment, and national efforts related to environment, national schemes related to environment. So you get to understand the numerous question areas which UPSC is throwing at you. Okay, and similarly, when you look at the mains questions also, you get to know the numerous areas. So this you can do by your own. But what has been done by KingMakers IAS is that the R&D team at KingMakers Institute they have looked at the past question papers. They have decoded the syllabus. Okay, so this job, instead of you doing, it has already been done for you. And based on the decoding of syllabus, the environment related topics and areas that UPSC is focusing on while asking questions have been identified. And for all those areas, content has been created in the form of an environment book. So the environment book provided by KingMaker will actually give you various topics, like they'll talk about ecology, they'll talk about ecosystem, they'll talk about terrestrial ecosystems, aquatic ecosystems, biogeochemical cycles, biomes, and there is so much. Then there is topics related to biodiversity, flora, fauna, conservation, national parks, wildlife sanctuaries, and all that. And then there is also emphasis given to climate change, global warming, greenhouse gases, and things like that. And then one more area which has been decoded from the syllabus is the national and international level efforts which are being taken for the environmental problem mitigation. So that includes conventions, like if you've been reading newspaper, you know that there's something like the Paris summit which happened, where the world countries came forward to set the global warming limits to 1.5 degrees Celsius above the pre-industrial levels. And then later on, there was something called as Conference of Parties 26, which happened at Scotland. And there was something called Panchamitra goals, which were devised by India. India submitted that we will do this much to save the environment. So these kind of things also get added year on year. Okay, so there is in environment, what you have to know is there is a static part and there is a dynamic part. And this dynamic part is something which will keep expanding. The static part is the part which is always staying constant. So the R&D team at Kingmaker has identified the static part, and that has been made into a book. It has been codified into a book. So you can just do one basic reading of the NCRTs, and beyond that, you do not actually have to visit the NCRTs again. You can rely on the environment book given to you by Kingmaker, and that will help you to get a basic knowledge foundation and grasp over the subject. And after getting that fundamental knowledge, there is then the current affair part, like I was telling you, the Paris summit, Panchamitra goals, and things like that. These are things that get added year on year. So this is something which is like current affairs. So current affairs also, what they will do is the institute every week they will be introducing you to the current affairs and current happenings which have relevance to the UPSC exam. So every week you will be introduced to current affairs from various areas, say from polity, economy, society, geography, etc. So in this regard, environment related current affairs also will be covered. So when environment related current affairs is covered, your things like Panchamitra goals and your Paris summit, say International Solar Alliance, Coalition for Disaster Resilient Infrastructure, these kind of things are current. It is what the country is doing. So international summits happen, we decide, our leaders talk, they chalk out a strategy, and then something comes about. These kind of things will be covered for you in the current affairs. So what you have to do is you have to do the book given by Kingmaker. NCRT do one basic reading to get an understanding. But after you get that understanding, and because after completing school you would have lost touch with the subject. In order to get and regain that touch, you have to do that one reading of NCRT. After you do that one reading of NCRT, that's enough. You'll get a grasp over the subject. Then you can shift to the Kingmaker environment book. You can club it with the current affairs, which will be done every week. So when you do when you do both of these together, it will actually help you to tackle the environment related questions in a very comfortable way. This should be the approach. You don't actually have to be chasing any other book or any other material. Everything is available for you here itself. Okay. And so coming to the way to study. So like I told you, it's just written, what I told you only is written, prepare the basics from NCRT, and then following the Kingmaker IAS environment book. Then this I've just to familiarize you with some areas, I've mentioned this. So a good command over mapping, national parks, wildlife sanctuary, Ramsar sites, tiger reserves. So this is because these are areas which you can see repeatedly asked in environment. From these areas, questions are occurring is of high probability. So these are areas which you should focus upon. Yeah, and one more thing which I want to mention here is, though institute is giving you the book, though institute is giving you the current affairs and everything, it is also important that you do not keep reading the newspaper. It is important that you have to read the newspaper. Only when you read the newspaper by yourself, you get an understanding as to what is important, what you should prioritize, what you should remember more and everything. For example, now in Sikkim, there has been this glacial lake outburst flood. Okay, so if we are writing mains like 2 months later, it'll be something which is of importance. Okay, so that you will know only if you've seen the newspaper. Okay, once you see it in the newspaper, you can just get a grasp over the happenings, and then the in detail study and everything related to that you can further do from the current affairs which will be provided to you by the institute. Okay, so I'm trying to tell you that you should not skip the newspaper, though current affairs is done for you. Okay, so when you do the newspaper, you get to know what is important. So that's the thing. And yeah, and I've mentioned some topics like pollution, climate change. So these are some current affair areas. Okay, so that will be covered by the institute. And international efforts, this also I mentioned, COP26, Panchamitra, UNFCC, okay, UNFCC and all. Well, now it is part of, almost like part of static, because UNFCC came about in 1992, and at that time it was like current affairs, but now it is a part of the static, so it is there in the environment book itself. It will get covered in the KingMaker IAS environment book itself. And yeah, and one more area which you have to focus upon is numerous number of acts related to environment. So here I've mentioned Wildlife Protection Act, but there are a lot of acts like Environment Protection Act. And so under that Environment Protection Act, you have numerous subtopics like environmental impact assessment, e-waste management tools, solid waste management tools, biomedical waste management tool, battery waste management tools, and all that. So there are numerous legal aspects related to environment. There are a lot of legal aspects. So that also will be covered to you by the environment book given by KingMaker IAS, and the current affairs related to that. Say if there's a modification in that. For example, in Wildlife Protection Act, there was a big change which came about this year. So that those kind of aspects will be covered in the current affairs classes. Okay, so that's about it. Then coming to the so that is about the approach to study and do the approach for gaining content and all that. So that's about the sources and all that. But then coming to how you will go about with the subject and how you will tackle this subject. So for that, I just want to tell you, uh, I showed you in the previous slides, and I told you also how to acquire content. So I told you the sources, so that has been mentioned. So that is what I've written as acquire content. So you know from where to do it and how to do it. And it's not just acquiring content, you have to understand and learn the content. So when you understand and learn the content, it makes your job very, very easy. Okay, so it is very important to understand the content, then learn in the sense you have to remember it, only then you can reproduce it in the exam hall. So that is what is learning. And one more important aspect is that you have to keep revising. It is important that you realize that you do not have to do the same topic from many books. Instead, one book, if you do and revise some 4 5 times, that will be better for you in the exam hall. You will become more familiar with the content, and it will give you more confidence to tackle the questions. Okay, so tiger reserves and all, if you say revise some 10 times, probability of you remembering the reserves is very high. That means when you get a tiger reserve related question in the prelims, you'll be able to easily mark it right. Okay, so that is the importance of revision. And one more exercise that you have to do is solve previous year questions. That is something which is very, very important. That will be incorporated by the test series given by KingMakers itself. But apart from that, if you feel like if you want to solve a whole UPSC paper of say 2020, 2021, 22, then it is always available in the UPSC website. You can download the question paper from there and solve it. Okay. And yeah, I've mentioned take periodic tests to check skills. Yeah, this is very, very important in UPSC preparation. It is important that you test yourself very often, okay, because you're competing with a lot of people and everybody is studying really very hard. There are also people who get into service and then come right again to improve service. So the competition is very high. So in such tough competition, what you have to do is you have to practice really well if you have to